Faites l'appel, s'il vous plaît, Madame le greffier.
Emily Eastwood.
Present.
Shristi Shah.
Present.
Kate Dennison Herbert.
Present.
Poppy Kirk.
Present.
Lexi Farrell.
Present.
Isa Bachenska.
Present.
Susanna Zawinska. Tino Banda. No. Petra Vieira. No. Caleb Simon.
Present.
Elena Baker.
Present.
Molly Davies.
Present.
Perry Elias Rees.
Present.
Edward Pirouet. Harry Scaron Bashley.
Present.
Tomek Dobrovolsky.
Present.
Lottie Wilmot.
Present.
Scarlett Camacho.
Present.
Callista Walsh.
Present.
Riala Melville.
Present.
Emily McCluskey.
Present.
Maria Encarnacion.
Present.
Ella Todd.
Present.
Katie Gilson.
Present.
Yasmin Forbes. Sharia Chauhan.
Present.
Rebecca Apostu. Daisy Morrell. Krista McCall.
Present.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon to you all and welcome to this second meeting of the new Youth Parliament to take place in this chamber. Now, the purpose of this afternoon's meeting, as you know, is for you both to give presentations in relation to the three topics that you selected for debate when we last met, and for you to have the chance to ask questions of the states members with specific responsibilities for the areas in which your groups have agreed to conduct a review, namely diversity and inclusion, housing, and the right to play. And I'm delighted to thank members for attending here today. And we have before us Deputy War, the Minister for Housing and Communities, Deputy Morrell, the Minister for Economic Development, Tourism, Sport and Culture, Deputy Gardner, the Minister for Education and Children, Deputy Renouf, the Minister for the Environment, and Deputy Jearn, who is the Assistant Minister for Home Affairs. Now, the format of today, as we understand it, is that there will be a presentation starting with the housing team, and then questions to ministers about housing, which I think the ministers have seen in draft before now. And when you've asked a question of a minister, you'll get a chance to ask another question before moving on to the next question. Then we've got a presentation by the Right to Play group, followed by questions to ministers, and finally an inclusion and diversity presentation, followed by additional questions that you've set out in writing for the minister. In a moment, I want to introduce those who are giving the housing presentation. I want to remind you that if you wish to ask a question, you should use the microphone light to indicate your wish, and then I will call your name. And if possible, it's best if you stand up when making your presentation or asking your question. And the ministers will probably do the same when they answer your questions in due course. So I then move on to the housing presentation and invite the housing presentation team to indicate who wishes to speak first. I think some of you do have some slides or some films you're showing us, and maybe we're watching a slide or presentation before anyone speaks to us. Who wants to introduce the housing presentation? Yes, Tomek.
Right, so I'd just like to start this whole thing off with a little poem I wrote about housing. Houses, houses, houses everywhere. Houses with walls and houses with stairs. Houses with people and dogs and cats. Houses with mould and stinky rats. Houses for rich in houses for poor, houses without even a door, houses protect for all that is dear, a glass of wine and a jar of beer. Prices are high, wages are low. The danger is horrid, and this we shall show. And now we begin the presentation about housing.
Thank you very much.
What do we mean by the housing crisis? Over time, affordable, good quality, accessible housing is becoming extremely scarce in Jersey, and there is more pressure on the government to resolve this daunting issue. And despite the clear solutions and the endeavours people are already investing in, there is still either not enough being done or aspects to improve on.
Yes, Harry.
Currently, Jersey is being struck by an economic crisis. The price of living, and more importantly, the cost of housing in Jersey, is drastically increasing at an alarming rate, which is causing many families and households to struggle financially. And if this continues, many families will be forced to leave this island.
Due to the quite substantial gap between the people who have and the people who don't, many people are being forced to live in poor conditions or struggle to find a place to settle in the first place. Furthermore, due to the inaccessibility of homes, many buildings are left vacant with no one living in them, which is highly unproductive considering there are so many people struggling for sanctuary.
8.3% of private dwellings were vacant, 4,027 settlements, due to more wealthy inhabitants renting out properties, which prevents residents from purchasing them. In the matter of years, the number of vacant dwellings have increased from 3,000 to 4,000, and we need to begin making these homes accessible again to begin decreasing the demand across the island. In addition, due to the high demand and low interest rates, accommodation has also increased from £697,000 to £1 million between 2011 and 2021 for a 4-bedroom house. These figures need to change if we want the struggle to improve.
What is already being done? Across the island, many things are already being done to improve our situation. Firstly, the government are running a programme called Andium Homes to find strategies to build sufficient homes that fit the demand and affordability that the general public require. Furthermore, there is a plan called the Bridging Island Plan that rezones green fields and uses the space to build larger family homes, as these spaces are in huge demand as people who want big families and homes tend not to live in town.
What do we intend to do? We need to encourage young people to speak up and feed into government policies by educating more people on how this housing crisis is really affecting families, and using real stories from those who've been affected. Promoting this information on social media platforms will help make clear where the faults lie in government plans. Hopefully, others across the island will be motivated to join in and put their ideas and opinions forward. After meeting with the Housing Minister a few more times, we aspire to be able to feed information back to him from the perspective of young people.
In conclusion, we all know that solving this island-wide crisis will not be easy, but a future without affordable houses is not a future for Jersey. Increasing prices, lack of accessibility, and poor standards of living are slowly driving young people away from this beautiful island, and we simply cannot let this continue. We are determined to use the views of the public to improve on the problems at hand, and we are willing to strive to make this island a better place.
Well, thank you, Tomek, Molly, Harry, Elena, Shoria, Perry and Caleb for that presentation. We now move on to the questions that you have prepared for the Housing Minister and any other member of the Assembly who's appropriate to answer those questions. Who will pose the first question this afternoon?
What are the green fields for and how are they protected?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. And just very quickly say what a wonderful presentation it was as well, because it really did, in a nutshell, encapsulate some of the issues we face. So Referencing the question, so the Greenfields, Jersey has a planning framework, which I notice you've already talked about, which is the Bridging Island Plan, and that seeks to protect the countryside, only building on greenfields in exceptional circumstances. This is to protect Jersey's amenities and agricultural industry. It's important to balance our housing needs with the need to protect our distinctive coast and countryside. Therefore, developments are usually located in clusters in town and in village areas. This creates better sustainability with shops, schools, community centres, and reducing the need to travel. So we try to keep everything tight in together in the most efficient use of land, which is the challenge on Jersey, where land is so valuable. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Do you have a supplementary question arising out of the answer you've had? Molly or anyone else? If you think of one, then we can come back to that topic, I'm sure. All right. We'll move on to your second question for the Minister.
How do you intend on providing the increase in populations with homes with Jersey's limited land?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. First of all, we have to identify a demand and build appropriately. So this is the concept behind, was why the Bridging Island Plan came into existence. Because there was a lot of research done on identifying exactly how many homes we needed for our population. And it's estimated we need to build around about 3,000 homes by the year 2030. So there are currently 2 consultations on drafts, what they call supplementary planning guidance. And this is around density. We've got to be careful how tightly we build. So in towns, for instance, we can build quite close together. In the countryside, we tend to disperse our housing a little bit more in the similar spaces. One of the areas which I'm involved in is a Future Places group, okay? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to balance the various challenging demands. So that's a challenge between building more schools, more green space, more houses. And obviously, when we're confined by the amount of space we have to build on, that gets difficult to judge and get that balance right, because we're not making decisions for today, we're making decisions for 10, 20, 30 years' time. So we're trying very hard to what we call coordinate those decisions and deliver improvements in Jersey's built environment. And that includes, as I said, it includes all the other amenities that compete, dare I say it, for the same land space. Hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions arising out of the answer you've heard from the Minister? All right. Let's move on to your next question then. Yes, Perry.
How do you intend on decreasing the demand of housing when the new homes that are being constructed are too expensive and quite often don't meet the needs and the demands of the people?
Minister.
I really do. Thank you for the question. Thank you, sir. I do hope that we're building the right types of houses for the demand, because if we aren't, we really do have a problem. We're going to be building houses that nobody wants to live in. So I think we have to hit that one into touch. So it's important for governments that we ensure that all new properties being constructed are suitable and meet the demands of islanders. One area which we get heavily criticised for instance, is building an extensive number of one-bedroom flats. However, if we look at the various metrics, we have one metric is called the gateway. We see that the highest demand is for one-bedroom flats, and that's for young people, and it's also at the other end of the spectrum for elderly people, maybe who've lost their partner. So there's a significant demand from evidence from places like the Gateway, from research that says one-bedroom houses are needed. However, we also understand, and this is through rezoning and the Bridging Island Plan, that there is a need for family homes as well, for 3-bedroom houses, which is a kind of standard home. So hence for the need to rezone maybe some of the greenfield sites. Now I'm sort of preempting one of the things here, and something I'm very passionate about, and something that government is going to publish in the next couple of days, and that's about recycling vacant homes, and the importance, in my humble opinion, that we use our land, our built environment more efficiently. So we're going to be publishing in the next 2 or 3 days a rather large 30-page document on how we intend to try and get those vacant homes back into operation. So that's a real challenge. It's a very, very complicated issue, but we think it's really, really important to do. So, sorry, just to carry on with this question, so intend on decreasing demand of houses. I don't think we can decrease demand. I think the demand is there, and it will continue to grow, as evidenced by the fact that we're needing to build 3,000 new homes. Too expensive? Well, one of the areas of trying to get people back into, to be able to afford to buy homes is what we call the shared equity scheme. And that is whereby instead of actually having to buy the whole of the home in one go, a proportion, certainly through our home buy schemes in Andium, we actually allow you to be able to buy maybe 80% of your home, which makes it more affordable, okay, until maybe time comes to sell, and then you can sell, and then you pay that 20% goes back to Andium Homes. But it's a way of accessing homes in a more affordable way, and that's some of the methodology behind what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Minister. Any questions arising out of the answer you've just heard? All right, next question.
Have you thought of the increasing quantity of houses is going to attract more rich individuals to move over to the island, which can then increase the gap between those who have and those who don't even more?
Thank you, Minister.
Wow, thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. That's a challenging question, isn't it? It's interesting, this perception of attracting wealthy people over to the island. There is a scheme called the 21Es, or what used to be called 11Ks, which are what we call high net worth individuals. And a certain number of those individuals are brought into the island. However, for the vast majority of people, they have no impact on at all. They have no impact on their house values at all. So I come back to my point about how do we, make homes more affordable? And I come back to the previous answer, which is about trying to bring in shared equity schemes and trying to get people to step through. So one area we have is the Gateway, where you can rent homes, and this is certainly through the public sector. And then in terms of helping people, we also, for those people who really struggle with housing, there is what we call benefits through Social Security, which can top up, if you're in the private sector, can top up your rental costs. So there are different mechanisms to enable people to get access to homes. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much. Any questions arising out of that answer from the Minister? All right. Do you have any more questions from the housing group? Because I see you've had 5 questions and one sort of fallen off. Yes, Caleb.
Recently, well, I think it was a couple of years ago, a young 2-year-old boy passed away in the UK because of moss poisoning. And how sure can you be that something like that won't happen in Jersey?
Thank you, Caleb.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for that question. And it's interesting because it was a question asked of me a day or so ago, and I actually would probably refer you to the Environment Minister. But the issue is around quality of homes and how they are maintained and looked after. We have got rules in place which say there has to be a certain standard, but it's obviously a great concern to us. And so one of the the good news, just to reassure people in Jersey, is that the standard of homes built in the public sector is extremely high. They meet a certain build standard, and they're looking to always improve that. And I came away from a meeting today, actually, with the Andium shareholders, which is actually going to go back and audit all of their properties. And what I mean by audit is go back and look at those properties and go just check and make sure that there are none of those issues which this poor child died from within their properties. And if there are issues, they're going to sort those issues out. We're very conscious of that. But what I've said today, and it was actually published in the paper today, was if you're unsure, if you're not happy or satisfied, you think your home is below a certain standard, and is unhealthy to live in, please contact the government. There are rules, there are laws in place, and we will endeavour to resolve that so that something like that terrible event can't happen on Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Minister of the Environment, anything you want to add?
Yes, thank you for that question, which is relevant to my portfolio because I am in charge of the regulation of private rented dwellings. So the Housing Minister has spoken about the property that's under his control, so to speak, through Andium. But we also have, as you know, a very significant private rented sector here. I'm confident that most of private rented dwellings are at a good standard, but I do think we have a problem with a minority of properties that are not at an appropriate standard. And therefore, I've signalled my intention in the new year to bring forward new legislation which will effectively bring in place a licensing scheme so that anybody renting a property will have to get it licensed. And that will include the potential for inspections of property so that we can check on those conditions and make sure that property meets the minimum standards which are set out in the 2018 housing law that we already have in place. So this is about putting in place a regime which means we can check effectively with the resources we've got. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Melissa. Yes, any more questions from the Housing Review Group? All right, thank you very much for your presentation and your questions. We now move on to the presentation by the Right to Play group. Who wants to start the ball rolling on that? Yes, Ella. Oh, it's not Ella. There's lots of you, actually. Ella, well, anyway. Katie.
We are the Right to Play group, focusing on Article 31 of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which states that every child has the right to rest and leisure, to engage in play and recreational activities appropriate to the age of the child, and to participate freely in cultural life and the arts. Since we were last in the chamber, we have collected information from multiple different sources across the island.
Our survey results have shown that many young people across the island have difficulties with things such as bus trips, cost of activities, and accessibility. As well as this, we have also gathered that half of our island parishes have one or less public spaces or parks. The parishes that do, the spaces are not in good state or are not safe for children to play due to old equipment and, in some cases, neglect. The majority of responses to what we should have more in Jersey were for parks.
Other responses stated that a number of activities cannot be accessed because of prices and accessibility. Another problem in the island is the bus system. People cannot travel by bus due to anxiety, poor routes that don't reach their houses, prices, and lack of weekend buses.
In island-wide surveys carried out by the government, it has shown that physical activity standards are very low within secondary schools. Less than 25% reach the recommended amount of exercise per week, and for Year 12, this was as low as 6%. Across Year 8, 10, and 12, an average of 67% of young people said that they would like to do more exercise. Then 39% of teenagers that responded said they wanted better facilities to do sports, and if there were more, they'd make the effort to have a healthier lifestyle.
We have recently had a meeting with the CEO of Jersey Sports. She stated her admiration for our campaign and explained that Jersey Sports has continuously asked for more sports facilities. We hope to work with them in the future as their aims match our own. She informed us that the age group which the average child drops out of sport activities is from 7 to 9. We believe this is because of the lack of encouragement to continue sport in secondary schools around the island.
Barriers to play in Jersey. What stops the children and young people accessing recreational activities? The recreational activities that are available are not advertised enough to the youth. There are not enough recreational activities. Not all activities are interesting or available to everyone. Sometimes, even though the activities are interesting and available, it's expensive.
What recreational activities are there? We have Jump Jersey, which is for ages 13 and older, but it's costly. We also have the cinema and beaches, but the beaches aren't available all year round.
We also have the zoo for ages 12 and under, Jersey Heritage, which can be costly, music clubs for all ages, art galleries, however we feel they're not advertised enough, and arcades, libraries, escape rooms, however they can also be costly, in Creepy Valley, which is additionally costly.
What is available for minority groups and what should be available? Safer and cleaner parks, more activities in the parks,
under 16 3 nightclubs, permanent ice skating rings, more inclusive and facilitated arcades, roller skating facilities, and animal farms.
By introducing these facilities and activities to the youth, not only creates more activities, but also creates a much more healthy and, more importantly, happy environment, but not just only for youth, but for all citizens. Our goal is not only to play a part in reducing Jersey's ageing society, but also to bring Jersey back together as a community. Introducing these inexpensive, fun facilities will not only keep children more entertained, but also keep some from simply spending time outside bus stops and participating in other unsociable activities, which is a frequent problem in Jersey. According to research, it also shows that children spending more time outside and partaking in fun activities will be better for children's mental health, and additionally emphasises the Jersey's government to put children first.
What gaps are there in provision? Is there a focus on one age group over another? We would like to aim our focus on 12-year-olds and above, teenagers, rather than younger children. By creating more activities and places for teenagers to play, we are not only accommodating younger children, but all children.
In conclusion, we have researched and gathered information about facilities and the young population within the last couple of months. We urge that government action is taken to improve our island, addressing issues that include pricing of facilities, bus routes, physical education, and most of all, safer environments for the young people of Jersey to play. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you, Ella, Katie, Krista, Maria, Scarlett, Emily and Yasmin for that presentation. You've put down 5 wide-ranging questions, which appear to me to involve at least 3 ministers here today. I was wrong about that. And who wants to ask the first question? Yes. You want to press your button as well? Yes. Right.
What are the minister's plan for young children and young people in Jersey?
Yes. Minister.
Thank you for... Oh, yeah. I will answer in 2 parts, I think. First of all, so I have main priorities detailed in my ministerial plan. There are 8 different bullet points. I'll not mention all of them. I'm happy to extend, but maybe I would be welcoming session and we can discuss in deep. But generally, if I'm thinking about the blocks, it's ensuring that all children and young people have the best education available to them from early years through to adulthood, implemented the children and young people's emotional well-being and mental health strategy 20-25, have a mental health strategy, and delivering improved health and well-being outcomes for children and young people. Improving our social care services for children and building on the Jersey Care Inquiry recommendations, working in partnership to deliver a range of services for children and young people, establishing a strong engagement valued workforce working on behalf of children, young people and their families, and ensuring services are delivered safely and effectively, and enhancing Jersey's skills system, ensure it is responsive to evolving needs of the economy and island's aspirations. So I'm happy to go further into the details how of these heading priorities will be delivered and what my plans, but I say I would be also welcoming to have our session.
Thank you very much. Any questions arising out of the answer given by the Minister? All right. Do you want to move on to your second question?
What is the annual budget for sporting facilities in 2023 and how might this benefit children and young people?
Yes, Minister.
Thank you. There are kind of 2 sets of sports facilities in Jersey. One is those that are looked after by the schools and those that are looked after by government in the main. Sports facilities which are funded by which are looked after by the schools are funded by the budget from each school. So if you have sports facilities in your school, it is the school itself which looks after them. The government also maintains a number of sports facilities such as Lake Ennevé, Springfield and Oakfield, amongst others, and these are run by the sports division in the infrastructure department in government. The sports division, those facilities cost around £7 million a year to run, but only £2 million of this is paid for by government. The remaining amount, the other £5 million, comes through payment that customers use those facilities, and also from the active membership cards that they buy to access those facilities. There's no question in our mind that sport has demonstrated time and again its importance for the physical and mental well-being of people of all ages. I know it's a great way to make friends, learn new skills, and also, most importantly, to stay healthy. So the government will keep investing in those sports facilities, and that £7 million over time will rise. There's no question about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions arising from that answer? Yes, Katie.
Like you said in your ending, if the... Something went wrong. Please try again. All right.
Nothing wrong with your question, don't worry.
If
Something
that
else went wrong.
7 million you said was to go up, would that mean pricing for those children to go to these events and facilities go up as well? Thank you.
Thank you.
It can be in different ways. So government could pay more itself, but that obviously means then that there'll be less money for something else. And so government, instead of paying £2 million a year, could pay £3 million a year. And that would perhaps bring the price down for people when they just turn up to play or when they buy an active membership card. But it's always that balance, and that's really is the job of government, to decide how much from taxpayers' money government's willing to pay and how much it's asking the people who use the facilities to pay. So as the cost increases, that will always be the question that the government's trying to work out. How much should it pay and how much should it make other people pay? Either way, it's the public's money that's being used to pay for those facilities.
Thank you. Any other questions for this Minister? All right.
Sorry, sir.
Sorry?
Was that a charitable donation by Deputy Gardner?
I'm not sure the rules apply today. Well, in that case, it is. In that case, it is. Yes. What's your third question?
Do you have any current plans or ideas to build any new sporting facilities or facilities for young people in general? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, and thanks for the question. Yes, we're currently almost finished building a new skate park at Lake Ennevé. That's set to be open, we're hoping, at the end of the year. It's been delayed by all sorts of reasons. And we set aside a further £1.25 million in the budget, the government plan for next year, for future skate park facilities. And so if you're a skater or want to get into skating, it's a good time to do that. Those new facilities include a new facility in town at South Hill, which is down on Mount Bingham, and a pilot project to introduce skate-friendly furniture. It's interesting, you won't find any in my house, at the Millennium Town Park, and for other skate-related satellite projects around the island. So the idea is that there will be small skate parks dotted around the island. So, as I said, if you are into skating, it's a good time to be there. But we're also completing renovation of all the sporting facilities at Springfield, and that includes gym facilities and exercise facilities, and that's to be completed by February next year. Additionally, we've recently put in a new 3G pitch at Oakfield Sports Centre, and are soon to start the next phase of development, which will increase the facilities available in 2023. You'll also know at the other end of the range spectrum, last year they upgraded the facilities at Coronation Park. The pool, which you all know at Coronation Park, come to the end of its life, and so they put in new water facilities there. But I know they had some teething problems. Sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't, but I'm sure they're onto it now and they're working well. So we do continue to invest in sports facilities around the island.
Thank you. Any questions arising from that answer?
How much does one skate park cost?
Thank you very much. A nice detailed question for you there.
That's a nice detailed question. I don't have the exact answer. So I'm trying to go off memory. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, I'd have known the answer. I think it's about to £2.5 million, but I'd have to get the answer for you. Don't quote me on that, but it's millions.
Even the little ones that you mentioned, even the small ones, you mentioned there can be some tiny ones.
They will be a matter of some small hundreds of thousands of pounds, or so it does. There's a huge range, so it could be just some hundreds of thousands of pounds. I've been in government too long, and all the way up to perhaps 2 million for the big facility.
Any questions arising from that answer? Right, do you want to move on to your next question, which is your fourth question, I think? Yes, Emily.
Are there any current plans to develop Fort Regent, and what can you share with us?
Yes.
Thank you. Now that's a question which goes back to my childhood. So, I mean, in short, there's no definitive plans at the moment. We are currently looking at the future of Fort Regent and how we can make the best use of it, not only within St Helier, but for the wider island. I co-chair a group called the Future Places Ministerial Group, along with the Chief Minister. And in that, we're considering lots of options for sites in town, and Fort Regent is absolutely among one of them. It's going to be really important that we hear from islanders as to what they would like to see with Fort Regent. In my mind, and I think in a lot of islanders' minds from previous surveys, is that they would like it to be used for community use, as opposed to the idea of, building a big hotel there or something like this. So, but we're going to work through in that Future Places group to work out what's the best way to develop Fort Regent into the future. We want to see it used. At the moment, it's still being used for the vaccination centre, but that's coming to an end, and then we'll be in a better position to give it a new lease of life.
Thank you. Any other questions about Fort Regent you'd like to ask? All right. Let's move on then to your fifth question. Katie.
Can you inform us what the planning process for building in Jersey is, and can you describe some of the timeframes involved? Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question. So the question of how does the planning process work? What is the planning process? I guess at its most basic, the planning process starts with a person or organisation wanting to do something. The question of whether they need planning application to do something is the first thing to determine, and that's set out in various laws. There are some activities which you do not need planning application to go through the planning process for. They're permitted, what's called permitted development. But let's assume that your activity or your thing you want to do does require a planning application. Then the process would be, depending on the scale, but you might, for example, want to take what's called pre-application advice. And to do pre-application advice, you would contact the planning department and say, hey, look, I'm thinking of demolishing my house and building something new here. What could fit within planning policies? And then you would look at the various planning policies. So the Bible in this regard, if I may use that phrase, is what's called the Bridging Island Plan, which is the document that specifies all the policies which might apply to any planning application that's coming through. And so you would judge whatever you're trying to do against that Bridging Island Plan, and the officers would help you make that determination, because the Bridging Island Plan is, let me tell you, a chunky document. And it has lots of policies in it which have, you could call them conflicts, I think I prefer to call them tensions. So we might have a policy which says we want to preserve historic old buildings, let's say. We'd rather you reuse the building. But because of the carbon footprint of knocking down a building and building a new one. But we might also say that certain buildings would have passed their useful life and maybe have got asbestos in them or something, there are other reasons why you might want to get rid of them. So there are tensions in planning policy. So you judge your application against policy, you submit a planning application, the planning application is then looked at by officers. If there are objections to the planning policy, then it goes to something called the planning committee, which is a group of politicians who will review it. And then they will make a determination. If that determination is challenged, and you can, under limited circumstances, challenge a planning application, a planning decision, I beg your pardon, a planning decision, then it goes to an independent inspector who appeals, who judges the appeal. And that appeal decision then goes to, oh my gosh, me. I am the person who makes the final decision on those planning applications, or in situations where I may have a conflict of interest, my deputy, who's sitting right in front of me here. Sorry, my assistant minister. I do beg your pardon, assistant minister. So that's the process. How long does it take? It depends. If it's a minor application, it can go through in 8 to 13 weeks. It might take longer than that, considerably longer for major applications. The biggest applications of all, I have the power to call in for an inquiry, a public inquiry. And those ones will obviously take longer to determine, sometimes in the years. Does that help in terms of understanding the process?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Yes.
much for your response. And it's very interesting to know what future plans can be and what it can turn into. However, I'd just like to ask, why has it taken so long for the government to recognise what we need as the youth of Jersey? And I personally think that cost shouldn't be a problem because it's able to be used on, amazing housing that, like my friend said, is being bought by all these rich tourists that come to the island. So if it's able to be spent on things like that, why can't it be spent on things as simple as a park? In fact, money shouldn't need to be spent anyway. You could do something as simple as recycling. You know, there's a big recycling crisis in Jersey compared to all the other Channel Islands, because our percentage of recycling is very low compared to Guernsey, and we can definitely do better. And I feel like we could better that by using those materials to create new facilities for everyone on the island. Thank you.
Well, that was a very interesting question. You want to? You could be a States member. Well, what do you say to that? Who wants to respond to that?
I think that question strays more into the budget questions, and your general point is a good one. I think a lot of people will look around the island and say there is a lot of money in Jersey, and maybe it's not being spent in the right places. We've got to distinguish between private money and public money. I have no ability to directly control how private money is spent, except through saying no to things through the planning system, which isn't a very positive intervention. So are we spending it in the right places? Well, I could point you in the direction of a very large investment in social housing through the housing minister, through Andium. I could point you in the direction of, as the economic development minister has already said, the £1.8 million we're spending on the skate park, the continued investment in Oakfield. I think it would be unfair to say that we're not spending significant sums of money on facilities that will be used by young people, quite apart from all the money that goes into the education budget and finds its way, as the education minister said, into sports and other youth facilities. I would hope that if there are gaps in that provision, that young people felt able to come forward and talk to us about it. I think, to be honest, we'd all love to hear more about that sort of thing. Where are the identifiable gaps in provision for facilities at different age groups? That would be a really interesting piece of work to hear about. I think we have some ideas on that. We do work on that all the time, but maybe we don't talk enough to young people about it. So I think that would be very interesting to do so.
Thank you. Yes, Minister for Children and Education.
Yeah, I will thank you for your question, and I took your question to a bit different direction. Basically, why it takes so long to understand what we need as children, young people, to be able to play and enjoy and develop. And I have to say thank you for inviting me today, because I needed to refresh my memory, because personally I recognize and strongly support right to play. And only back in March, when I was a backbencher, brought an amendment to the Bridging Island Plan, which is now our planning, it's our island plan. And an amendment was adopted by the states, I think I know that we still didn't really act on amendment because amendment was adopted, it became part of the regional island plan, new government was elected. But what was agreed by the states, first point, develop and bring forward a specific place strategy for the island to ensure that children receive the best possible start in life. So it's our duty, me as Minister for Education, Minister for Environment, Minister for Economic Development and for Housing, to work together to develop this strategy. And I think because you as a youth parliament picked up as the theme, I think to work together on developing place strategy for the island to know where are the gaps and what young people would like to have is extremely important. And I've heard that it shouldn't be highly costly facilities. It can be, we need to make sure that we have a balance and also it can be accessible price-wise and accessibility-wise. The second, and this is what Minister for Environment is working on, Minister for Environment should provide supplementary guidance in relation to the place space, which will help developers to have clear definition what place space constitute as enhanced, because each developer, when they're building their houses, needs to put the contribution and they need to enhance the playgrounds, upgrade the playgrounds that already exist, or now they must build the playground. So each development, any developer, any new housing development, we must incorporate play areas. And the Environment Minister currently developing the guidance. So I think we are on the way to bring all stakeholders together and make sure that we enhance our play areas, make them accessible and sufficient.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any final questions? Yes, Katie.
Thank you for that explanation. It's obviously a lengthy process, what you have to go through to create new facilities, and I appreciate that. Some of the members from our campaign met up with some planners and artists that are going to help to renovate the basketball court at Millennium Park and to get new nets to make it more clean, safer, just a nicer environment to be in. And that's all it took, just to talk to someone and meeting people and creating ideas. And I personally think it shouldn't be a lengthy process. All we need is just a few ideas and some creativity.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for that helpful remark. Any response from the ministers, that final response? That helpful contribution from Katie? Yes, Deputy. Yes.
No, it's very, very, I look at because we kind of talk about the arts and artists and people. There are lots of people who coming forward and would like to contribute and work together with the department, and we are looking how we can really incorporate artists and the people who are, there are some corporates that would like to have one open, like once a week or once a month contribution, and their social contribution, how we can enhance the places. So it's definitely we need to work with all, if it's all stakeholders, and make sure that they're all part of this development.
Well, thank you very much for those helpful presentation and those very thought-provoking questions from the Right to Play group. We now move on to the inclusion and diversity presentation. And who wants to start the ball rolling in relation to that? Yes, Kate.
Hi everyone, welcome to our diversity and inclusion presentation. Within this, we will be tackling multiple topics that we feel need to be improved upon. Today, I'll be starting you off with our findings on issues on religion in the island. First, let's start with the basics, and if anyone would prefer more detailed information, it will be provided on the screen. In Jersey, in the 2015 social survey results, over half of adults regarded themselves as having a religion, and within this, more women than men said they had one. In addition, 97% of the people who had a religion specified that they followed Christianity, with the remaining 3% being made up of various others, including Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, and more. This means that there's a heavy imbalance of religious beliefs on the island, and that is one of the driving reasons why education and celebration of different ones is mostly limited to Catholicism and non-targeted culture days, as religion and culture are often tightly intertwined. Finally, in the JOLS 2019 report of people who have been discriminated against, 3% were due to religious beliefs. And whilst this does not seem like much, that is still approximately 3,000 people. Some of these statistics are reflected in Jersey's youth population, as due to the survey I did amongst Youth Parliament members from a variety of schools, the only services provided by schools were Catholic, if any were at all. In addition, many are not allowed to opt out of these services, which goes against the law. This is one of the main things that we believe needs to change within the laws surrounding it, so that the people who do not follow Christianity or any religion at all can feel safe and accepted today without being pressured by peers or schools to partake in Christian services, especially if their beliefs lie elsewhere. Our aim is to make Jersey a more inclusive and welcoming environment for all, and that will only happen by tackling a variety of issues, such as religion. Unfortunately, another member of our group couldn't make it today, so instead I will also be telling you about disabilities in Jersey, both visible and invisible. To start, we believe in equity over equality. Equality is when everyone is treated equally, but equity is when everyone is catered for according to their individual needs so that everyone can be equal. Equality is good in some respects, but we need more equity in schools and workplaces as well as in society. Now, as an example of equity, I will tell you about the Sunflower Lanyard Programme. The Sunflower Lanyard Programme is for hidden disability awareness, which is supported by multiple charities, both in the UK and in Jersey. This programme is to let people who have hidden disabilities discreetly let others know that they might need extra assistance in certain situations. This is something that we believe should be more widely supported and known about in Jersey, due to how vital it is to the well-being of many on our island. Finally, I will give some information on visible disabilities in Jersey. In the Jersey Children and Youth People Survey of 2021, of those who stated that they had a disability, 42% said that their day-to-day activities were hindered. This shows that Jersey has a way to go with becoming more accessible. Moreover, many sidewalks and pavements in Jersey tend to not be wheelchair, or in some cases, walking stick accessible, which we wish to help change for the better, so that anyone with mobility difficulties, be it the growing elderly population, or young children with physical disabilities, they are able to have easy access to anywhere on the island. Now, I will be passing you on to Emily, who will be addressing young people in the LGBTQ+ community.
Thank you, Kate. Emily.
Hello, my name is Emily, and I'll be presenting on the topic of LGBTQ+ and identity. An important thing to note is that you should not be discriminated against for your sexual orientation or gender, whether it's your birth gender or not, as this is shown in the discrimination law. In recent years, there have been more young people who are openly part of the LGBTQ community, and this can be seen in the 2021 Young People Survey. However, young people who are openly queer can face discrimination even from other young people. One quote which I found from one of the last Youth Parliament's final reports states that they have been called slurs and have been misgendered and dead-named almost every day and get relentless bullying from other students. We find this unacceptable. Our plan for our upcoming months as Youth Parliament members is to make sure that other genders and sexual orientations are introduced into schools and spread awareness about the LGBTQ community, especially in young people. We would also like to test how unisex toilets would work in the hopes to make young people and adults who are of a different gender to their birth gender more comfortable. The states have already made their standing order gender neutral and have a publication of a gender-sensitive order of the States Assembly. Another thing to note is that in the future data collected, there will be a wider variety of gender identities included. We, however, would like to focus on young people and their education in the hopes that we can try and create an island where everyone can be included. Now I'll be passing on to Shrusti, who will close our presentation by talking about cultural diversity.
Thank you. Shrusti.
Hi everyone, my name is Shrusti and I'll be talking to you about our recent studies and progress on cultural diversity. After looking through the JOLS 2019 report, I found that 12% of the people who had been discriminated against were based on their race or nationality. It came to my notice that the top 4 locations where the discrimination took place were 44% at work, 26% while buying goods or services, the state's Department of Parishes, while the rest 24% of people faced discrimination when applying for jobs. The statistics never cease to amaze me. According to the Census 2021 reports, the total population of Jersey is around 103,000, out of which 8,434 people are non-European nationalities, with 18% of people being Asians. In recent migrations, 54% of the nationalities are non-Jerry or non-British. It shows that our island is painted with 1,000 shades. Recently, we met with Deputy Jen and Deputy Dewler from the State Assembly, who assist the Ministry of Home Affairs, Children and Education, Equality and Inclusion, who introduced us to 3 different clusters with whom we could connect in the future, namely Caritas Jersey, Diversity and Inclusion, and You Matter. We arrived at the conclusion to write to the Statistics Jersey and Channel Island Humanists to introduce a census or report which is more inclusive and mindful of various genders and diverse nationalities, as our research showed that a lot of people with dual or multiple nationalities have a lot of difficulty in choosing their backgrounds, and it does not truly represent our Jersey's population. Furthermore, I attended a meeting with the Cultural Diversity Centre Steering Group, which is established by the Chief Minister as a part of the government's 100-day plan, which is being led by the Minister for Children and Education, Deputy Ina Gardiner. The aim of the Cultural Centre is to celebrate all distinct cultural diversities throughout our island. Currently, we have an amazing plan put forward by one of the cultural steering members, Victoria Lee, for a new Lunar Year Fest in 2023. It aims to bring the Asian community of Jersey together, engage the islanders with new food and culture, display Jersey as a diverse community, and boost tourism. I really look forward to seeing the beautiful festivities. Lastly, I would like to thank everyone present in this session, both physically and virtually, for taking your precious time and listening to our presentation. We'd like to present our questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate, Emily, and Shrusti, for that introduction to your questions. I will now move to your first question. Who wants to pose the first question? Emily.
Is there anything currently being worked on, if any, by the government to make Jersey more accepting of the LGBTQ+ community?
Yes. Mr. Minister.
Thank you, sir. And thank you very much for your question, and I apologise that my throat is playing havoc with me today. The Government of Jersey and I personally stand shoulder to shoulder with the LGBTQ+ community and abhors discrimination in any form. The government is an enthusiastic supporter of Jersey Pride, which is a celebration of our LGBTQ+ community and an opportunity for us to all stand in solidarity. The Assistant Minister for Children and Education, who also happens to be our fellow Assistant Minister for Home Affairs, who is in the gallery today, is also working hard to bring legislation to this Assembly to secure the rights of same-sex parents. This legislation will allow same-sex parents to both be named on a Jersey birth certificate, automatically offer parental responsibility to both same-sex parents, give mixed-sex civil parents legal parent status and parental responsibility in the same way as a married couple, provide the ability to recognise parents whose child is born to a surrogate mother as legal parents of that child, and recognise children born to parents in a civil partnership as legitimate. This work is vital to ensuring that LGBTQ+ parents are subject to equal treatment under the law. Within government, which is the island's largest employer, we have an LGBTQ+ employee network, which is an employee-led group. Its purpose is to create a supportive working environment and policy framework for LGBTQ+ colleagues in Jersey, and really importantly, to encourage all colleagues within the organisation to understand the needs of the LGBTQ+ individuals within the community and our organisation.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions arising out of that answer you've had? Yes, Emily.
So how would this extend to young people, considering that they are also too part of the LGBTQ+ community and are just as valid?
Yes, thank you. Assistant Minister.
That's a very good question. And I think it's something that we'll be working on in parallel with the Minister of Children and Education to ensure that that will happen, and ensure that if there are gaps, that we can bring that forward in the next 4 years. And I'm looking forward to the Youth Parliament to actually start that conversation and highlight where the gaps are when it comes to children in the LGBTQ plus community.
Thank you. Yes, moving on to your second question. Kate.
When was the last time that religious laws were reviewed?
Who's this question for then? Yes, this is the Minister.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the question. So from my discussion with members, I've assumed your question relates to the Education Jersey Law 1999. So Articles 18 to 21 of the law make provision for religious education to be provided in provided schools in Jersey. These articles have not been amended since the law was passed in 1999. Jersey's ecclesiastical, that's a really hard word. That's the word. Law has been subject to relatively recent review as part of the transfer from the Diocese of Winchester and attachment to the Diocese of Salisbury, which was finalised very recently. At the same time, revised canons of the Church of England to Jersey were also adopted.
Supplementary question? Yes, Kate.
Does this mean that English laws have impact on Jersey laws and kind of vice versa?
Is this the Minister?
Sorry, please can you
Yes, can you repeat the question, please, Kate?
Does this mean that English laws, so from the UK, have any impact on Jersey laws and kind of vice versa?
No, thank you very much for your question. Because Jersey, we are autonomous. We make the laws here in this States Assembly. But sometimes we look to other laws to take from them and see where we can also kind of put them into Jersey's own law. So we make our own laws in Jersey, but we do take from time to time and law from, especially from the UK too, because a lot of that work has already been done and maybe it's similar, so we can take that on board. But we then decide in the States Assembly whether that is what we want to do and how much we take it on board.
Thank you. Minister for Education and Children.
Yeah, I would like just to thank you for your questions and thank you for bringing diversity and inclusion to our discussion. There are two work streams currently going within the SAIBS, within the Children, Young People and Education and Skills Department. One, the religion curriculum is reviewed. And we have Maggie, who is leading on behalf of our department, but she has a group from all faith people, from Islam, Hinduism, Judaism, working together with her to develop this curriculum. I know there are several other meetings in place, but by the end of the year, we'll have new, modern, updated curriculum. And again, if we would, I think it will be really important to make this connection with the Youth Parliament and to hear your views on the new curriculum that will be coming before we'll finalize it. Second, follow the previous Youth Parliament PSHE curriculum. One of the themes that was raised, and again, will be publishing our response to the report for PSHE curriculum made by previous Youth Parliament, and LGBTQ plus are the themes that will be enhanced in the new PSHE curriculum.
Thank you. Yes. Should we move on to your third question now? Yes, Lottie.
How do you ensure that schools are following the current education law with regards to religious teachings?
Yes, thank you. Who wants to answer that question? There's two lights at the same time. Yes, Assistant Minister.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the question. And I assume the Minister of Education will be able to follow up if anything that I miss. But there are a number of ways that this is done. Schools are visited by officers from the Education Department who visit all classes teaching RE in a primary school, and at least one school each term is subject to a review. There is also a quality kite mark system for RE that several schools have obtained already. And secondary school data is reviewed annually by the Religious Education Advisory Council, which meets termly to ensure compliance and support. Meetings also take place for all RE teachers termly, and regular training takes place. And in recent years, at least 2 quality full-day trainings has been provided. I understand that the syllabus is currently under review, and a new one will be introduced next year. I believe the Minister has done that. I outlined already.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your very full question. The only two things that I would like to add, which I forgot, first of all, we are planning to review education law, the religion obviously is the part of the education law, we need to work on it. And another thing is that we need to look about the compulsory worship, which is a big question mark if it's right when we have diversity and if yeah, in which way. I don't think that compulsory worship personally needed anymore. It needs to be choice, and choice needs to be provided to other people to do their worship if they wish. People are aware that I'm Jewish. And when we had the reflection in the church, I requested, can we have humanist type of reflection, because I would like to do, but I would like to do it in a different way. And it's something that we have discussed previously, because we have humanists, we have Jewish, we have people from different religions and beliefs, and we need to find the way to do our reflection in the way that's important for us.
Thank you. Do you have a question arising from the answers that you've heard? All right. Let's move on to your fourth question about the sunflower lanyard. Yes, Poppy.
During lockdown, the sunflower lanyard scheme lost its meaning. Do you have any suggestions on ways we can make people aware of its intended use?
Yes, Assistant Minister.
Thank you, sir, and thank you very much for the question. As you said in your presentation, the Sunflower Lanyard Scheme was introduced to signal that the wearer had a hidden disability and may require support. While the government's disability strategy is explicit in recognising that disability can be fluctuating and it can be invisible, a hidden disability may affect the sensory mobility or cognitive abilities of an individual. So ultimately, the strategy aims to improve the levels of accessibility and inclusion generally, including for those with hidden disabilities. So should an individual with a hidden disability disclose, then they should receive the appropriate level of support as everyone else. Work is ongoing to explore the benefits and challenges of doing so with these lanyards, and but these lanyards are a way to communicate this, and it may be less intimidating. Work on raising awareness, targeting stigma with events, campaigns is also important to improve the understanding of disability, diminish negative attitudes, and ultimately change behaviour.
Yes, Trustee.
Thank you for a lovely response. Though I had a question. What about the people who can't come out and bring themselves to tell other people about their hidden disability? How do you think you could tackle that issue?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. And it's actually something I don't know if I could actually answer straight away, because it is really difficult. And it's something that I know that colleagues and officers, understand that there is a lot of, there are people who have that difficulty to come out and are able to disclose their, especially hidden disability, to be able to access support. And it's something that I believe that the government is constantly asking those questions of, and constantly changing and adapting to offer ways of being able to disclose that maybe it's not just a one-to-one meeting, but there is other ways, so it enables people to access help and access that disclosure without having, just having one avenue to go down, but being able to have a number of options to be able to do that. But it's something that is constantly on, I'm sure, everybody's mind, and it's something that we need to improve on as well.
Thank you. Yes, Kate.
Is there anything also being done for visible disabilities as well as invisible ones? So, for example, like wider or smoother pavements?
Yes. Assistant Minister.
Yes, thank you for that question. So the disability strategy is under the Social Security Minister, and there is the Assistant Minister who's specifically working on that, the Assistant Minister for Charities, Deputy Falcon. So I think that is something that I can ask him to respond to you, because that's something I think is really important. It is part of the disability strategy, and it would be interesting how he, what kind of actions are taken. And obviously, he had that kind of thing with pavements. Obviously, brings in other ministers as well, like the Minister for Infrastructure as well. So I'm sure they will be able to give you a fuller answer than I can now.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to your fifth question now, please. Yes, Trustee.
How can the government promote education about different cultures across all schools?
Yes, Assistant Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you very much for your question. So there are lots of options for this, and of course this is a matter primarily for the Minister for Education. But as a mum of two dual national children, this is something I think is really important and something that resonated with me in your questioning about the fact that sometimes in data collection, for example, around statistics, around the census, you have to make a decision which nationality you are. And I find that very difficult for my children because I don't want them to feel that they have to choose between their mother's nationality or their father's nationality. So that has hit me, your presentation, strongly. The RE syllabus itself is an obvious example, but also the PSHE curriculum also provides that opportunity to address religious tolerance, but also cultural diversity and inclusion, and all the areas that we have been talking about today. Equally, the curriculum for history and geography can offer a way to do that as well, because I think it's also important from a historical perspective to look back and to understand where some of these diversities, inclusion or discrimination can potentially come from. So it's really important that history recognises that and comes forward, as well as geography. We have to understand where people come from as well, and to understand so we can celebrate that diversity as well. And there are also projects such as the Map of Wonders, which is an art project focused on social inclusion, relating to different cultural projects on the island. But there's lots more of events and multicultural events and art displays and celebrations that can be done. I know maybe the Minister of Education wants to add, but you also, in your presentation, said some good examples as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final questions arising out of? Yes, Trustee.
Even though it's there in the law and like the religious education curriculum or the geography, the history curriculum, I don't think there's really anything or much being done about it, because as far as I know, mainly the broad perspective is about Christianity, or like the RE curriculums go as far as to probably Islam and Buddhism, I think, and maybe touch parts of a bit little other stuff. Otherwise, I don't think there's much being done. And about cultural diversity, I don't think people really know in schools about different cultures, respecting them, their traditions.
I think that there is lots of work needs to be done. Only in May this year, we launched our multilingual policy, so we recognize multilingual learners. And going forward, we started to have conversations about bringing, when you bring the language, if it's Romanian, if it's Polish, if it's any other big Portuguese, within the schools, you're also celebrating cultures. And other things, I'm visiting schools, and it's really different between schools, and some schools recognize more and they have their cultural days, and some schools recognize less. I think what's our job as an education, for me as education, children education, is to make sure that all schools would have this cultural diversity recognition and celebration within. I also believe that International Cultural Center, that you would be also part of the steering group, would work from the library, would work together, and will bring this diversity into the school and schools into this celebration. As you know, we are building calendar year that each big group would have their own celebration. So basically every second month or every month we would have cultural event to this or that culture that represented. And if we learn about each other, we can more be open to learn about Jersey culture, have the Jersey Festival, to learn about Indian, Hindu culture, to learn about Romanian, Polish, talk about Jewish. So it's all in progress. We need to do the work, and we're just at the beginning. And we definitely would work with the Youth Parliament to enhance the office.
Thank you, Minister. Any final questions from your group? Well, thank you very much indeed. And thank you all members of the Youth Parliament today for your very interesting presentations and your far-reaching questions. I do hope, on behalf of all of the members here present, the ministers in particular, that the answers that you've given will help you in formulating your reports, your recommendations and your campaigns. And I'm sure that if there are questions that come to mind that you haven't asked today, that you wished you'd asked, or on reflection, having regard to the answers you've had, additional questions you'd like to ask, I'm sure the ministers would respond to emails from any of you in order to flesh out those answers you've had or even answer further questions that you'd like to ask. I'd like to thank the ministers too for giving of your time and considering in advance the answers to the questions that you've posed. At the end today, there's going to be a short informal session in the members' common room downstairs. The youth service have provided snacks very, very kindly. And those members in the gallery have also kindly attended. And the members down here in the chamber, in the posh seats, are very welcome to attend that informal chat in the members' room. So thank you all very much for coming today, and the Youth Parliament stands adjourned until we meet again.